Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome devotees to our morning Bhagavatam class. This morning we'll be continuing with Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 13, verse 49. The chapter is entitled Dhritarashtra Quits Home, and these are conversations between Narada Muni and Maharaj Yudhishthira. So without further delay, we'll go straight into the discussion. The class will be given by His Grace Parikshit Prabhu from ISKCON, Harrisburg. Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Vihar. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Vihari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada 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 Srila Prabhupada Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Nitai Gora Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Nitai Gora Hari Bo Nitai Gora Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Nitai Gora Hari Bo Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Privajikacharya Stotra Satasri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Privajikacharya Stotra Satasri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Sham Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Mathura Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai Samavita Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande Haribo. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Nama Om Vishnu Paraya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Dita Swami Niti Namani Namaste Krishna Paraya Prabhupada Siddhartha Sri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Namani Narayana Namaste Chanaruncheva Narotamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tatujayam Udirayat Nashtaprayesu Abhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhavatu Tamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Hare Krishna. Good morning, devotees. So this morning's class is from Canto 1 and Canto 1, Chapter 13, Text 49. Soyam Adya Maharaja Bhagavan Bhuta Bhavana Kala Rupo Patirnosyam Abhavaya Suradisham Soyam Adya Maharaja Bhagavan Bhuta Bhavana Kala Rupo Vatirnosyam Abhavaya Suradvisham Soham Adya Maharaja Bhagavan Bhuta Bhavana Kala Rupo Vatirnosyam Abhavaya Suradvisham. Hare Krishna. You can chant if you want, wish to.
Soya Madhya Maharaja Bhagavan Bhuta Bhavana Kala Rupo Vatirnosyam Abhaya Abhavaya Suradvisham. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
सोऽयमद्य महाराज भगवान् भूतभावना कालरूपवतीर्णोऽस्याम् अभावाय सुरद्विषाम्. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else?
सोऽयमद्य महाराज भगवान् भूतभावनः कालरूपवर्तिनोऽस्याम् अभावाय सुरद्विषाम्.
Jai. Okay, word for word. Sa, that's Supreme Lord. I am the Lord Sri Krishna. Adya, at present. Maharaj, O King. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Bhutavavana, the creator or the father of everything created. Kala Rupa, in the guise of all devouring time. Avatirna, descended. Asyam, upon the world. Avavaya, for eliminating. Suradvisham, those who are against the will of the Lord. Translation by Sublime Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. That supreme personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, in the guise of all devouring time, Kala Rupa, has now descended on earth to eliminate the envious from the world. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. There are two classes of human beings, namely the envious and the obedient. Since the Supreme Lord is one and the Father of all living beings, the envious living beings are also his sons, but they are known as the Asuras. But the living beings who are obedient to the Supreme Father are called Devatas or demigods, because they are not contaminated by the material conception of life. Not only are the Asuras envious of the Lord in even denying the existence of the Lord, but they are also envious of all other living beings. The predominance of Asuras in the world is occasionally rectified by the Lord when he eliminates them from the world and establishes a rule of Devatas like the Pandavas. His designation as Kala in disguise is significant. He is not at all dangerous, but he is the transcendental form of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. For the devotees, his factual form is disclosed, and for the non-devotees, he appears like Kala Rupa, which is causal form. Its causal form of the Lord is not at all pleasing to the Asuras, and therefore they think of the Lord as formless in order to feel secure that they will not be vanquished by the Lord. Hare Krishna. Om Aginat Virandasya Gyana Gana Shalakaya Chakshu Umilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Vedanti Swaha Padantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shcha. Shri Rupa Sagajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam. Sadhuitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam. Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Scha. He Krishna, Karuna Sindhu, Dina Bandhu Jagatpate, Gopesha Gopika Kanta, Radha Kanta Namustate. Tapta Kanchana Gourangi, Radhe Vrindavaneshwari, Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami, Hari Priya. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Titanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namani. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Charini. Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gurachiche Namaha. Ananda Lilamaya Vigrahaya Himavya Divecha Vishindraya Tasmi Mahaprema Raspadaya Sri Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste. 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 Hare Krishna. The translation again. That Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, in the guise of all devouring time, Kala Rupa, has now descended on earth to eliminate the envious from the world. So, the personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, has several energies, unlimited energies. And the Lord is also absolute. So through his energies, he can act. And his own person can act also. The Lord is Satchidananda, as Lord Brahma says, his form is Satchidananda. Ishvara Parama Krishna, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Satchidananda Vigraha, his form is full of eternity, full of knowledge, and he has the greatest happiness all of the time in whatever situation. So much so that his activities are termed pastimes. So in every situation that he's in, there is some sort of enjoyment attached to it. Even when you see Krishna as morose, and usually he is morose if his devotee is going through a time that's difficult, or in appreciation of what a devotee has done. Like when Kardama Muni went through austerities just to please the Lord, and he really sacrificed his body for the austerities. He ate very little, and he was in meditation all the time. So when the Lord appeared to him, the Lord shed tears because of how Kardama Muni looked. But he was doing all of that just to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is a big lesson for devotees, all of us. We should endeavor to do things to please other devotees. We should endeavor to do things to please a guru. We should endeavor to do things to please a Param Guru, His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. And we should endeavor to serve the deity from the bottom of our hearts. On top of that, we should really use one of the 9 processes of devotional service, the prayer, to be better at what we do in service to the Lord. That is the most important thing to do on this earth. And to back it up with the desire and get help from devotees, from Guru, and from Krishna himself, the Lord in our heart, the Chaitya Guru, the Lord within, with our aim to be a better devotee, is the best prayer that anyone can pray. The Lord will be happy with us, and the Lord will help us and protect us if we want to put our efforts into serving him from the bottom of our hearts. We may not do everything so nicely because our senses are defective. We don't have senses that are so great. They are limited. The eyes can see only so far. The ears can hear only but so far. 5 miles away, The eyes can't see much and describe much. If you're on an airplane that's 5 miles up, which is called at 35,000 feet, and even if the clouds are not around and you can see all the way down, you cannot see a human being walking, not from that distance. So the eyes can't see but so far, can't see details. But still, if we use them to the best of our abilities in serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we are doing ourselves a great favor, because then we are living life like those in the spiritual world live. The Lord clears this earth and other planets in the material world when envious people or demonic people take it over and become too much of a nuisance to everybody. They like control. They like to have a planet and make people think that the Lord is not in control or there is no God. That's what the demons do. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes as all devouring time. And he says, time I am, the destroyer of all things. So all devouring time. As Arjuna saw the universal form of Krishna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he was devouring everybody that was a soldier there. And he had already said that apart from the Pandavas, practically everybody was going to be killed. He knew it was his plan, and the main thing was to allow those who would be killed by Arjuna and other Lord warriors, but would see Krishna and appreciate Krishna's beauty, if nothing else, just the beauty, seeing him, they would get an opportunity to go to the spiritual world. So, although a lot of people were killed, and we're talking about hundreds of millions were killed, their lives, the souls, were given a better situation. And at the same time, when the war was over, a lot of the demonic kings had also been killed. And Krishna had installed Maharaj Yudhishthira, who was a pious king, Raja Rishi, on the throne. Because then going forward, there would be a period where in that rule, things would go on wonderfully and people will be happy, more the goodness will be prevalent, at least at the material level, and people will also be pious, and people will serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead as their leader, the king, was doing. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in the guise of all devouring time, has now descended on earth to eliminate the envious from the world. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada says there are two classes of human beings, namely the envious and the obedient. The envious and the obedient. And these are the two classes of human beings on this earth at this time. Those who obey, they obey the injunctions, the scriptural injunctions. And those who want to do things on their own, even if they don't think themselves envious of God, they are, because they have put God aside. And they're doing what they're doing without any scriptural injunctions, without the laws or the codes set by the Lord. Or some people have joined some religion that the rules are so relaxed that they can do whatever. And even some of the rules there, they say, oh, it's too difficult because they want their sense gratification. Why are you taking my smoking away from me? Why are you taking drinking away from me? This and on and on and on. And when you go to the churches, those things are not even discussed. But when you come to the Krishna consciousness movement, the Krishna consciousness movement will begin by cleaning us up. Those things are not good. It is not good to gamble, because gambling casinos and other places where gambling takes place are designed so that the gambler is the loser. It is set up like that. Why would any business be such that the person that comes in and takes more money away than the business can have? Will the business survive? Of course not. So gambling casinos are set up in such a way that the gambling casino makes way more money than the people who come in to gamble. But they also have the lure. The lure is the one that something that the bait that attracts you is some people do win something. And that gets advertised so that every gambler will say, oh, yeah, you see, people can win. Maybe I can win. And then they get more into it. And in fact, because the whole types of gambling plays, the different things they do in the gambling are all such that ultimately the business makes more money, then the gambler actually becomes a loser. But the lure of the thought that they can make it big, make a lot of money there at any time, makes them continue. So you come to Krishna consciousness and say, stop it all together. Because if you do not gamble, your money is with you and you can use it the way you want to. Not determine that I will take this chance and maybe I will be one of the few once in a while winners. Do not drink. Drink alcoholic beverages. It ruins the very body that we're trying to live life with. It will make us sick. But those things are not discussed so much in the other places, in the other religions. So everything is relaxed in the religions. Srila Prabhupada has translated wonderfully what Krishna said to Arjuna: abandon all types of religion and just surrender. The highest thing we can do to ourselves is to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When we are surrendered to Him, when we begin to surrender to Him, surrender means, well, I am all yours. You see, there are two types of surrender. When you're fighting, when armies are fighting, and one side predominates and becomes successful in eliminating a lot of the soldiers on the other side, it gets to a point where the soldiers wave a white flag and give up, and the killing stops, and those people are taken by the winning side. Then it means that the losing side has surrendered to the winning side. That's one type of surrender. But that's not the type of surrender that we're talking about here. When Krishna says surrender, it's like be aware of the fact that our Supreme Parent is all powerful, and we should be the way the children teach us. You see that the children go to their parents. And when the children go to their parents, even how they go to their parents is very, very obvious. They just look, when other parents are around, they will look to make sure that they are going in the direction where their parent is sitting. And they go, and the parent lovingly allows them to sit on their lap, sometimes even kisses their cheek, and do all of those, and the child feels secure. That type of surrender is what Krishna is asking us to do. We have lived life so many times, in so many lifetimes, up to this particular lifetime, and in this lifetime also, we're making a lot of decisions that make or give the impression that we know what we're doing. But at any time, a different situation can happen. A different troublesome situation can happen. How else does the news go on all the time? If you listen to the news, it's pretty much the same thing. This distress happened here, that distress happened here, that distress happened here. And of course, it happened without the people that were affected, the victims not even knowing, without the victims knowing that that trouble was around the corner. So how much protection do we really have? Unless we rely on the Lord. Surrender to the Lord the way a little child will go to the parent. That type of surrender is what Krishna is asking us to do. Then, in this case, the two classes of human beings, as Srila Prabhupada is saying, the envious and the obedient. So when we surrender, then we obey the Lord's laws. The Lord is one, and the Father, Bhuta Bhavan, the Father and the Creator of all living beings. So those who are envious are His sons, and those who are obedient are also His sons. The Lord is the Father of all living entities. Reminds me one time I was in New Jersey. I went to this health food store, And we used to, at that time, we were running a business, we're selling natural health products, soap, massage oils, bath oils, and a few other things. So I went to this place, to the store to replenish the items that were there. The ladies, older ladies, very nice. And we began to talking. And she turned the conversation into a religious conversation, which I thought was quite interesting. Okay, I wasn't about to back away from it. So, see, I was very happy that she brought it up, and then so the conversation turned to the devil. And I said, but the Lord created everything. She agreed. Well, then the Lord created the devil too. And she was very disturbed about that because in her mind, the devil does things that are negative. And we don't associate things negative to the Lord. So then the devil is in the class by himself. That's her idea. Then I said, but the Lord is creator of everything though. Then she had to agree. I said, well, then it means that the devil is also a creation of the Lord. She does not understand. So we explained a little bit to her that you have a choice to do right or a choice to do wrong. If you do wrong, you're in the devil's camp. And if you do right, you're in the Lord's camp. We put it simply that way. And then she agreed that, all right, well, okay, so we have to be on the right side and not the wrong side. The Lord's side and not the devil's side. This was a Christian, so we had to break it down at that level and not go too far. But anyway, it was an interesting conversation, to say the least. This is a short form of it that I'm just talking about here. So the envious are there and the obedient are also there. So envy. So in Bhagavad Gita 331, Ye me matam idam nityam anutistanti manava Shadavanto nasuyanto muchante tepi karmabhi. Translation: those persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions and who follow this teaching faithfully without envy, they become free from the bondage of fruitive actions. So Krishna is telling us the first, we got one point here about not being envious, the advantage that is in it. The advantage in not being envious. The persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions and who follow what Krishna is teaching to do faithfully without envy, without envying anyone, certainly not the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they become free from the bondage of fruitive actions. So, we have to follow the injunctions set by the Lord. And what are the injunctions? We have to surrender and execute duties faithfully. Rupa Goswami has told us, accept things that are favorable to devotional service and reject things that are unfavorable to devotional service. So using the intelligence Krishna has given us, when we assess our actions based on what is favorable to devotional service and what is unfavorable to devotional service, then we will become free from the bondage of fruitive actions. Fruitive actions bind us. Fruitive actions is what we want for ourselves. We lust for those things. We want that, we want this, we want this. We have to live life simply. But sometimes we want more just for ourselves. So what is being said here is that simple life means the things that are necessary for the physical body as well as the soul, you do. That is important to do. We have a physical body now. We're not in the spiritual world, we're in the material world. So we cannot say that we will not deal with the things that we need to do materially. That has to be there. But we take the spiritual always as important. The necessary things are for the material body. The important things are for the spiritual, the soul. How to get back. in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 32, the next text. Ye tuetat abasuyanto nanutistanti me matam. Sarvagyana vibudam stan vedi nastan achetasa. So now Krishna is talking about the others. This is quite a popular text. The others, the other part, the ones that are envious. He says, but those who out of envy disregard the teachings of Krishna consciousness and they don't follow them regularly are to be considered bereft of all knowledge, befooled, and ruined in the endeavors for perfection. So Krishna is saying this. Those who execute duties according to his injunctions, they will be free from the bondage of fruitive actions. And when you're free from bondage of fruitive actions, you're on your way back home, back to Godhead. But those who don't do that, they disregard the teachings of Krishna consciousness out of envy. They are bereft of all knowledge. They are made like fools. They be fooled. And they try to be, whatever the endeavors for perfection is not going to get anywhere. Everything is ruined because then they are offenders. And aparadis don't go back. Offense is aparad. Aparadis don't go back to the spiritual world. See about part is translating 4:22, chapter 4, text 22 of Bhagavatam. Bhagavad Gita. Yad drishcha labha santushto dwadantito vimatsara. Sama siddhava siddhavcha kritapi na nibhadyate. He who is satisfied with gains that come of his own accord, and who is free from duality, and does not envy, and is also steady in both success and failure, is never entangled, although performing actions. Sri Krishna is explaining that one has to be satisfied with gain that they are in the situation in to get, because Krishna will protect us. If we want to strive to get more wealth, then concomitantly, we should have a program to serve Krishna with the wealth. Then the effort is an effort to serve the Lord. You should also be, or we should also be prepared to be sanctioned, our activities or effort be sanctioned by the Supreme Personality of Godhead or not. Because if we make the effort and the chances are high, we really are devotees surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the chances are that we would get into Maya with the wealth, then Krishna will block the wealth from coming. And if we really are going to be determined to serve the Lord, then, as my Guru Maharaj explained, sometimes somebody even endeavors with that particular plan to use what comes from seeking wealth to serve the Lord. The Lord will give an even greater wealth than what they thought of trying to get, if they're really going to serve the Lord with it, serve Krishna consciousness projects with it. So the question becomes, where's our head in all of this? But still, Krishna says, Krishna will protect. He says he will. So gain, or what we make of our own diligent work, free from duality, and does not envy. And when things come, our efforts successful or even failing, they never get entangled. The person that's free from duality is also the person who is steady in both success and failure. What we call material success and material failure. Because the way they think about it is, I'm trying to do this to serve the Lord, and the Lord determines the results of it. Therefore, if I put in the effort and genuine effort to serve the Lord, that is all that's required. Now, it does not mean that, oh, this situation has come up, that situation, because Maya will test us. And then we say, oh, well, no, another devotee would do this because I can't do this. I can't is a very subtle way in which Maya robs us of opportunities to serve devotionally. If the physical body has stopped you, that's one thing, because sickness sometimes puts a person down and someone will have to cover their service or something of that sort. That's understandable. But sometimes our minds play games. They play games with us and there's service to do. And then we feel like, oh, today I'm feeling so and so and so and so, so material reason, and we don't want to do it. This is being spoken even for my own purification, because it happens. A thought just goes through everybody's mind. But you have to defeat it in saying that it is to the Lord's interest. I am a servant of the Lord. Therefore, I should definitely take on this and not let Maya take over my mind. So we're always in this fight. We have to obey. We have to obey the rules of the Lord and not allow Maya to use us in different ways that would make us actually, literally, regret later on. Fall down does not happen overnight. When people get weak, it's because of a little bit of things that they used to do to serve, and now Maya gives them some excuse not to. Then a little bit, this comes off. What you used to do, then you're not doing. Then a little bit, then a little bit, then a little bit. So going down in Krishna consciousness, going down is a slow process, because Maya knows that the devotee will be very obvious to them if like everything gets taken away at once. So he takes it little by little by little, or it gets to a point where you look back and say, boy, I think I've really fallen quite a bit. But when you're around devotees, the association of devotees, then that possibility or that probability is very much reduced, because one who is around devotees would see what other devotees are doing. They will help, they will work together. Sometimes they work together as teams. And in doing so, get so much done. Be excited to be around other devotees. And then, because of that, we get excited about the process itself, and then we'll stay fixed. Therefore, what we're saying is that devotee association is critical to everybody's success in Krishna consciousness. If you try to go it alone, you're going to have problems. If you try to go it alone and you're not around other devotees, then what's going to happen is, well, you're not around devotees. So who are you around? Either by yourself, people can't be by themselves because the mind's a social being, or you're around other people who are non-devotees. So they're not going to help you. So we got to be very, 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 very clear about the fact that devotee association helps us to keep obeying the laws of the Lord and therefore be happy. If you get out of the association of devotees, then you're going to be around non-devotees who are envious, who are doing things against the Lord's injunctions, and then success in Krishna consciousness becomes a difficult thing to do. So we have to also be careful to explain this confidential knowledge to those who are not envious. We explain to those engaged in devotional service, or at least want to do devotional service, beginning from the first one of the 9, which is to hear. When we hear, then we have the knowledge. So then when we act in full knowledge, or at least the knowledge to the extent that we have imbibed or it's been explained to us. And that's what brings happiness. So in a lecture, the last thing I'm going to leave, a lecture on obedience, November 26, 1966, Srila Prabhupada was preaching in New York. He said, for so long we have been disobedient, and this is for everybody. For so long, which means lifetime after lifetime, if we were obedient to Krishna, we would have gone back to the spiritual world by now. So for a long time, we've been disobedient. Now we have to become obedient. That's all. It's that simple. We have to become obedient. This obedience means, he says, that's the first law of discipline. Mhm. So as soon as the people of this world, this so-called advanced world, if they become obedient to God, then there will be discipline and then there will be peace. Because to be obedient to the laws of Krishna means that there are certain things you do and certain things you don't do. And if there are certain things you do and certain things you don't do, then you are disciplined. Because discipline has certain things, do's and don'ts. So if the people of the world become obedient to God, then there will be discipline and then there will also be peace. So it reminds me of one pastime. I think I read it, I must have read it on WhatsApp. But it was a situation in, I think it was in Washington, D.C. Devotees had gone to the mall area there, that's where the museums and so on, and they had gathered in one place. They had a pandal, canopy, and they were playing. They were playing, that is, they were singing kirtan, wonderful kirtan going on. Very, very, very enthusiastic. Then the weather was bad. Weather turned bad. It started raining. And there were other people in the mall. And the question was, the rain was pouring so much that it was, you have to find a place, otherwise you'd be very, 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 very wet, soaking wet. So those that were around the area where the devotees were chanting the holy name, the Hare Krishna mantra, they wanted a place. And there was some room under the pandal. So some of these people came there. And of course, the devotees were just, the kirtan was really, really roaring and going on. At first, those people felt uncomfortable. But the thing is, you either leave, if you leave, get from underneath the canopy, you're going to be in the rain. And so they stayed there. But they were not so crazy about the music that was going on. I'm speaking in their terms now, we know that's kirtan. So they also tried to sing, but they were singing with the mindset of literally mocking the devotees. Oh, you're doing this. Okay, so we're doing this. We'll just sing, the Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. But after a while of doing that, their minds changed and their hearts changed, and they actually started chanting in earnest. And the mantras, is very simple. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And after the kirtan was over, they went, some of them talked to the devotees, and they admitted that they had started chanting literally in mockery of what the devotees were doing. But they just came under the pandal. Everybody knew that we were trying to escape the rain, escape from getting wet. But they said the chanting has actually changed us. So then they asked, they were apologizing. They wanted to apologize. Even the devotees didn't, they just went on. These people apologized for starting off like mocking the holy name. But you see, the holy name can change everybody. Once you start chanting, you have Krishna, and Krishna will purify. The holy name purifies. It's supposed to purify the entire planet. That's why it's been said, Lord Chaitanya is saying that the holy name will be in every town and village. Literally, they know that it could convert them. So everyone is trying to play what? God. There is no discipline, Srila Prabhupada says in that lecture. They don't agree to follow any rules and regulations. They want to be like God. But people who are God, they're actually dog. Everyone can do anything, whatever you like, so there's no discipline. So to undergo devotional service is to undergo a disciplinary system in our life. And that helps us to automatically revive our lost relationship with Krishna, and from that we become happy. So that is bhakti. Everybody's after peace and prosperity. But what is the basis? The basis of peace is love. Therefore, we have to be loving to each other, which means to assist each other, as it sometimes says in other religions, be the brother's keeper. So it's not possible if you don't love people. You cannot become peaceful that way. So if we learn to love Krishna, then we can love everyone, or start loving and being helpful to everyone, and everyone is connected to Krishna because the soul is part and parcel of Krishna, you will in fact ultimately develop love of God. So we have to be careful. Envy saps one's energy because you're thinking negatively. And even brings anger sometimes because somebody has something that we don't have and we wish we had. It makes us lament. So it's very draining. Whilst the obedience that the Suras do, the demigods, the Devatas, those who have a mentality of the Devatas or the demigods, mode of goodness, that brings happiness. To love somebody, to serve someone, that brings happiness to the person that is serving, and it brings the person that receives the serving also. That particular service also makes them happy. So as it said in the Nectar of Instruction, we have to give gifts, we have to receive gifts, we have to give prasad, we have to receive prasad, we have to open our minds, confidence, and tell, and also receive confidential information back connected to Krishna consciousness. And those loving exchanges will help us be happy. So given the choice between being envious and being disciplined and obedient, we always should stay obedient and should help each other in sadhusanga, in association, to be obedient to the injunctions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord will come as Kala to clean out things. Now he's cleaning out things through his holy name. So we have to chant vigorously and continuously, and then we will in fact help to purify this world. We'll do our own part. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you so much for such a wonderful class and really reiterating the power of the holy name and the power of surrender and the power of devotional service. So thank you so much. Would like to ask devotees, have any questions, any comments? We have about 5 minutes left. If you have any thoughts, reflections, or you can put it in the chat and I will be happy to read it so that, we can hear from each other's reflections, realizations, takeaways, anything. Please do share. While others are thinking, or if you just jump right in, if someone has something to say, just going down the list is, interestingly, when you mentioned about this incident at the health food store in New Jersey, so as we all know that here Srila Prabhupada is saying that both the Asuras and the Devatas are, literally created by the Lord. One might ask why. How can we tackle that question? Why would the Lord create Asuras? How can we tackle that question?
The Lord, the whole idea is not like the Lord controls what we do. We have some free choice. And there is good and there is evil. And so when we choose good, then we are obeying, and we are obeying the laws of Krishna, and then we are with Krishna. But because the Lord, Prabhupada was asked this question, why the material world was created in the first place, if the material world is like a house of correction or jail. Then Srila Prabhupada explained that just like when a city is built, the people that are coming in the city to live in the city, some of them are good and some of them would be criminal. That's their choice. Therefore, there has to be a place that the government has to build so that those who are a disturbance to the community can be removed from the community so they don't cause a problem to the community. So good and evil, that's there. It's a choice that a person can make. If they want to be evil, then that's them. But it doesn't mean that Krishna wants them to be evil. This is a choice that they themselves make. It's all a matter of consciousness. The consciousness of Krishna is good consciousness, and consciousness of Maya is bad consciousness. But we have the choice. Because Krishna, the relationship between us and Krishna is a relationship of love. And love, it does not force a person You cannot force a person to love the person and someone else. That person has to be willing on their own to do that, to love. And if they don't, then of course they are going to be in the negative things and doing things negative against that person. And so it is part of life, literally, to make choices based on one's free will, which Krishna has given for all of us. So that's the situation that we're in, the choice we make. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, free will. We got to use it wisely. I remember reading something from Srila Prabhupada says that if we misuse the free will, then we're in trouble. So thank you for reminding and bringing that up. That's a
And
question
thank you
here
for
by
bringing
Dave.
the word out. We have to use it wisely. Very important. Wisely is very important. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. A question from Hare Krishna. He says, Hare Krishna, thank you for the wonderful class regarding association. One thing is devotee association and another thing is good devotee association, especially when one is serious about spiritual advancement. How to deal with this to ensure our association is uplifting? Very nice.
Very good question.
Very nice question.
The devotee association, especially when one is serious about spiritual advancement, when one wants to advance. How to deal to ensure with this, to ensure the association is uplifting?
Yeah,
well, the association.
The key word is uplifting.
Yeah, I know. That means we have to have association that's uplifting. We have to have good association. And that is association with devotees who are serious about their devotional life. Now, devotional life and service, it's out there. We can see when we associate with devotees, we can see who is talking about Krishna and who is talking about all kinds of things outside of Krishna. If you hang around those who talk more about Krishna and more the goodness things up to that is starting, and I talk about Sanatana Goswami, he was expert at that. Starting even from a material question, answering it, or material discussion, being part of it, and turning it to Krishna consciousness. The person who is steadily, conscious of doing it that way, turning conversations Krishna into Krishna consciousness, is a person that you're going to hear about Krishna consciousness from. You're going to hear from that person if you associate with them. You should be around that particular person. The person that chants steadily, the person that helps us with our spiritual needs, a person that is always nice, a person that does not speak to offend other people, a person that does not criticize other people, you will know. And from those, watch their habits. And from that, you can then be close to that person. Everybody else you can associate with. You can give you association. But a person who has those qualities, you should take association from them and listen to them and hear, because you're going to hear about Krishna through them. So then we make the choice using our intelligence then of to who we're going to be closest to. And those people that help us by talking about Krishna all the time and talking about things and even giving us good advice when you open our minds to share some of the things to them. That person's association will be definitely uplifting, and it will give us a chance to go forward. We also can, it's not every time that most of us with gurus, with initiating gurus aren't around them. Some of them, initiating gurus have left the body. But if you go to their picture and pray to the picture, you can also get guidance like that. The pictures are also potent. But as far as the devotee association, you know what devotional service is about, the things that has been broken down in the 9 processes. Watch and associate with the person that is talking about Krishna and turning things to Krishna all the time. And I said I was going to talk about Sanatana Goswami. When he moved to Vrindavan, when Lord Chaitanya asked him to come to Vrindavan, he was in fact associating. Sometimes he would go into the village. The villagers were there, the residents were there, and they will ask him questions that were material questions, problems that in the house and this and what to do. They were seeking his advice. But every time that he would answer the question, the material, whatever thing that he wanted, he would end up segueing or connecting it to Krishna consciousness so that the person got the advice that they want, the material advice, but they also got preached to something that they can do involving Krishna consciousness. So he was always like that. And therefore, the residents of Vrindavan benefited tremendously when he came. He and Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami was particularly helpful to the residents, but always bring Krishna consciousness in. So a person who brings Krishna consciousness into a conversation is one that you should associate with as much as possible. Hare Krishna.
One more question from Dirk. Is it okay? Oh, very nice question. Is it okay to be judgmental in our association to protect our spiritual progress? Often we worry about offense, Vaishnava aparad, and I think we end up losing so much time in the wrong association, fearing of a Vaishnava aparad. I have to agree with that because we do spend, anyway, I'll have my husband.
So the question is it okay to be judgmental in our association to protect our spiritual progress? When we are relating to people, we should either do one thing or the other. It's all about spiritual progress, as we've talked about here, protecting the spiritual progress. We should help people who are not progressing so much to go up, and we'll talk about specifics, to get their spiritual life on track or do better than they've been doing. When we are talking to, or we are around a person who is like that and not saying anything or doing things that are not even in line with what should be done for proper devotee activity, devotional service, then our examples should help. We should be a good example by the way we act towards that person. Actions speak louder than words. You can say a little bit, but when your own action is in fact better than what the other person is doing, because that person happens to be in Maya, then your activity will help that person to see the best thing to do. You don't offend them by saying something negative or criticizing them, no. But you can say words of encouragement, and definitely your actions should also be actions that is in line with what Guru and Krishna want us to do. So you said that, well, sometimes we do so much time in the wrong association. Well, it depends on how we look at it. If the association is wrong, meaning, and I take your using wrong association to mean the people who won't help us grow in Krishna consciousness or uplifting, or their situations of uplifting, you have two choices. Either you help them to grow with your advice and actions, or you don't have to be in the company practically all the time. You can give excuses to get away from that particular relation. There's always something to do. You can excuse yourself to go do some particular act, if some particular service, if that association is affecting you so much in a negative way. You don't have to be there. You don't have to be there. You also have that choice to come up with a good excuse to leave the area. So that is always there, but the better thing, if you can, if the situation lends itself, is to actually help that person to grow by changing their minds, changing the conversations, taking over the conversation if that's what's going on. And then when putting it into the proper Krishna consciousness perspective, that conversation, you can turn it around. That is service to that person. And if the person is being very difficult and being obnoxious, then you come up with an excuse to get out of that area. And you pray for them also. That way you won't be offensive to them. You pray for them because you know that they are in the wrong, temporarily in the wrong path, Maya's path. And you pray for them. Hare Krishna.
I hope that helped there, Krishna. But that was a very good question. Yeah, either we help them or we step away. I think is what you said, and pray for them.
Yes.
Because
Help them or
Because at
step
the,
away.
as you were speaking, I was remembering, because at the end of the day, we have to also take care of our devotional creeper within us, because sometimes things happen on a very subtle level that we're not aware of, but by as they say in America, it just rubs off. And by association, we don't even know that we're behaving like them. I mean, I've seen, even in myself, situations where sometimes I pick up a certain way of speaking, choice of words and language that I'm not even aware, but it's all by association, and it just comes off. And I have been caught and said, why do you speak that way? And I'm not even aware of it, because it goes into the subconscious mind. So we have to be very careful, either we help that other person or we step away, because things happen on a very subconscious level. So thank you for bringing that question up, and thank you for a wonderful answer.
It's a very
At the end of
important
the day, we
question.
got to take care of our devotional creeper. Definitely.
It's a very important question, because it happens everywhere. People are in different levels of growth in Krishna consciousness. So levels of growth means that some people are different levels, lower level, means that Maya is attacking them more than other people are. So be around those who are fixed up and help others who are a little challenged in their growth. Or if it's just too mundane, then you have to leave the area. Right?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Very nice question there, Krishna. Thank you so much. We just passed the hour. Just wanted to make sure that no other questions and comments or clarification. And if there isn't, just a humble reminder to devotees to please join us this evening at 6 o'clock. We've been having a little struggle to have devotees join us. It'll be very nice if we can make some time to join this evening to hear Srila Prabhupada at 6 o'clock. We will continue with chapter 2, verse 1. Like we mentioned on Monday, Srila Prabhupada broke up the verse 1 into 2 different lectures. So we heard the first part on Monday. We're going to hear the second part today, because Srila Prabhupada says we will continue with this verse. So we'll continue with 2:1 today. So please, we humbly request devotees to please make time and join us to hear Srila Prabhupada this evening at 6 o'clock. Until then, Vanchakaptibhyascha, Kripasundaveva, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha, Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai. Have a wonderful day, devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila
Hare
Prabhupada.
Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Bol.
Krishna. Glory to Srila Prabhupada. Jai.
Okay, Krishna.